Hi there and welcome to the History Teacher. This revision video covers Weimar and Nazi Germany from the GCSE Edexcel 9-1 course. Hopefully you'll also find it useful if you're studying any of the other exam boards or if, like me, you just love history. You can now become a member to support me to continue making this content from just £1 a month. Plus you'll get exclusive access to worksheets, revision materials, and you'll get to vote on forthcoming episodes. The link is in the description. Hi there guys, today we're going to be looking at question 2 on paper 3, Weimar and Nazi Germany. This question carries 12 marks and is focused on AO1 knowledge and AO2 explain and analyse historical events. So let's get cracking an example question so I can walk you through the steps you need to take to get the best marks you can. So let's start by looking at the question. There are important reminders here which give you clues about how to get the best marks. Firstly, this is an explain why question. So that means you need to be giving reasons and showing how they link to the question. In this case, you're going to be giving reasons Hitler became the Chancellor in 1933 and linking back to that question in every paragraph. The second thing you should note is the bit in the grey box. It says you may use the following in your answer. So this is saying you can use them, but you don't have to. I see lots of answers where the student hasn't got a clue what the bullet point is about, and then they ramble on for a paragraph, which gains them no marks. If you don't know what the bullet point is referring to, then don't include it in your answer. One of the things you should expect from these bullet points is usually one of them is a clear paragraph on its own and the other is part of a paragraph. And you'll see what I mean by this in a minute. However, at the bottom of this little box, it goes on to say that you must also use information of your own. Answers that don't give additional knowledge are capped, so you absolutely have to do this. I'm going to use the PEEA structure for this question because I believe it gives you the best chance of hitting all the requirements in the mark scheme. For those of you not familiar with PEEA, it stands for Point, Evidence, Explain and Analyse. If we take a look at the mark scheme, we can see that a level 2 answer includes accurate and relevant information, which is where we're going to deploy our evidence. Into level 3, it says an explanation is given, which is our explain bit. And finally, level 4 asks for an analytical explanation, which is our analysis bit. So let's start putting all of this into practice so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to start by writing 3 bullet points, one for each of my paragraphs. This is going to help me structure my answer and remind me what my points will be so that I can refer to them in my analysis. Remember I told you that one of the bullet points will form a whole paragraph? Well, in this case I'm going to use the Wall Street crash as a basis for one of my paragraphs. The second bullet point you'll remember is part of a paragraph. So I'm going to add a bit to this. President Hindenburg, von Papen and von Schleicher. I now need to decide what my third point is going to be, and I've decided to talk about Hitler's use of propaganda and violence. So now I've got my bullet points, I can jump right in and start writing. I've already decided my first paragraph is going to be about the Wall Street crash and its effect on Germany, so my point is going to outline this. I've said the Wall Street crash had serious effects on Germany, which led to a rise in support for the Nazis. And that's all I need to do for the point. I'm just telling the examiner that this is what my paragraph will be about. Easy peasy. Now I need to address that knowledge bit of the mark scheme in my evidence. So here I'm just writing a couple of sentences giving the facts about the effects of the Wall Street crash on Germany. I've written, following the Wall Street crash, many businesses went bust and by 1932, 6 million Germans were unemployed. There was a huge increase in violence and theft and many Germans were left homeless. Note that I am giving specifics here. I've said 6 million unemployed. That's because I want to hit that part of the mark scheme in level 4 where it says accurate and relevant information is precisely selected. And I'm going to continue to do this in the next bit. So next we're focusing on making sure we hit our explanation target. In this part I'm aiming to link my evidence to the question. So in this case, how did the effects of the Wall Street crash lead to Hitler becoming Chancellor? I've written, this led to an increase in support for the Nazis because Hitler seemed like a strong leader. People were looking for someone who would fix the problems and Hitler seemed like the man to do this for many Germans. This led to the Nazis winning 38% of the vote in July 1932, which made the Nazis the biggest party in the Reichstag. This meant that Hitler could now demand to be made Chancellor. Note my use of connectives such as because and this led to. I'm using these to make sure that my answer is an explanation and not a description. You will also note that I have remembered the percentage of votes the Nazis received and when they received them, which shows the examiner I have accurate and relevant information. Finally, we come to our analysis. Remember, to get a level 4 answer, we need to give an analytical explanation. So if you want the best marks you can get, you should always attempt this. Analysis in the explanation question is really asking you to judge how much of a reason it is. It's a good idea to compare your reason to other reasons you're going to talk about. Remember, we wrote our bullet points to help with this bit. So I'm going to say how important it is and compare it. I have written, this is a really important reason because if the Nazis had not been able to get the largest share of the vote, Hitler would not have been made Chancellor. However, it's not enough on its own because the president hated Hitler and didn't want to make him Chancellor. So this definitely makes a judgment and nicely leads me into my next paragraph. Okay, so we finished our first paragraph. Now we need to move on to paragraph 2. I'm not going to do this whole paragraph with you. There's a link to a worksheet in the description to help you practice the PEA structure, but we're going to have a look at my analysis for the second part just to make sure we've got it. Checking my bullet points, I know the next paragraph is going to be about the politicians, so I'm going to start with my point. Hindenburg hated Hitler but was persuaded by von Papen to make him Chancellor. I want you to have a go at adding the evidence and explanation here, so pause the video and have a go at it. Then we need to think about how we're going to analyse it. Again, in my analysis, I'm going to judge how important this factor is and then compare it to my other points. So, I have written, von Papen's decision to make Hitler Chancellor was fatal. Without this and von Hindenburg's agreement, Hitler was unlikely to become Chancellor. However, it was the success of the Nazis in the elections that forced them to make this decision, which again segs neatly into my third paragraph on the actions of Hitler and the Nazis. A final point to note on this question is that you do not have to write a conclusion for this question. You just need to write the 3 paragraphs. Hopefully that's helped you to see how we can make sure we're hitting all the points on the mark scheme and getting those top marks. If you have any questions, remember there is a worksheet and my contact details are in the description. Now for a quick word from my other half, and I will see you next time.
History teacher's SO here. She's given up work and is living off her savings to make these videos full time. Unfortunately, savings don't last forever, so we're asking for your help. If you can spare any money to help her keep making these videos, please visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description and give what you can. That said, we know these are difficult times. You might not have any money to spare, but you can still help. Like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm, but also spread the word. Tell your friends, colleagues, and anyone you think might be interested. Thanks.